Hello and welcome to season 3 of the Drivers Car Series, and we have of course made another change this year. We are here at the Madras Motorsport Racetrack, and no, we're not going to be lapping these cars in any way, but we thought why not try and do something more. The idea behind the Drivers Car Series has always been to drive our everyday sporty cars a little harder than needed and a little further than necessary. And we thought maybe if we try to do this on a racetrack, we might find some more entertainment, if nothing else. And to see if that is true, well, here we are at MMRT. And we are kicking off proceedings with this, the new Maruti Suzuki Swift. Yes, it's down on power and it's down on torque, but that essence of Swift being a light, nice, small, sporty car, I think that hasn't been lost in this version either. But of course, that's on the road. What happens when you push it a little harder, drive it a little further on a racetrack? Well, let's find out. At 3.86 meters, it is small. At 920 kg, it is light. And yes, it might only have a 1.2-litre 80 bhp 3-cylinder engine, but in the real world, given how this engine produces its torque, the new Swift feels quite alive. Now you can have it either with an automated manual or AMT, which from a driver's car point of view is completely avoidable. Or you can get yourself a proper 5-speed manual. The power meanwhile is only channeled to the front wheels, and the Swift doesn't come with any trick differential or electronic aids, apart from an intrusive ESP system, of course, which one can never really switch off. So in that sense, the Swift is simple and pure. Our cars are constantly evolving, and thankfully, so is the fuel that powers them. Indian Oil XP95 is undoubtedly the perfect example of this much-needed evolution. You'll surely agree that we need more out of our cars with every passing year. So why should our expectations from fuel be any different? XP95 puts that question to rest by offering you truly intelligent petrol with 95 octane ratings, with benefits around both performance and efficiency. The cars of today are obliged to deliver greater accountability towards performance efficiency and emissions compliance, a seriously tough task, and this exposes their engines to highly demanding operating conditions. XP95 being a higher octane fuel helps your engine perform to optimum levels, ensuring you an uninterrupted driving experience. There's more good news for those of you who want absolute value. XP95 reduces emissions as well, with significant reduction in carbon monoxide. It not only does your car a sizable favor, but the planet too. How's that for revolution? Like we said at the start, this is not a very powerful or torquey engine, and even though the Swift is a light car, on the road I think this engine feels fine, and I like it for two reasons. I like it for the amount of torque and how that torque is spread, not maybe so much amount, and then of course the noise. It makes such a lovely noise. It's gruff but it's sporty, and so when you get on the throttle you can hear that connect because of the exhaust and the way the engine sounds, and so I like it. But at MMRT, that amount of torque and power just isn't enough. Everything feels a lot slower than you'd expect on a racetrack. So if I were to choose, I'd say that the Swift definitely feels much nicer on the road than it does on the track. And if you really want to enjoy the Swift, I think engine-wise, you should stick to the road. The another problem that we're facing today is, even though it doesn't have a lot of torque and power, because it's wet and it's got these puny tires, is just understeering. The moment you try to lay down the power, it just understeers and understeers. So you want to gain or you want to carry some momentum, and then you think that you want to use that amount of power coming out of the corner, but the moment you start getting on, because you want to get on the throttle hard, because you want to use it, there's not that much there, it just understeers. So a slow corner like that, you turned in, now you want to get on, but the moment you do, you just start running wide. So you just can't be aggressive with the throttle in this condition. So that also makes a difference. But I still really like this engine. But engine, of course, is part of the story. This is the Swift manual, and I think if you like driving, you have to get the manual on the Swift, not the AMT. The AMT is good for an AMT, but the manual is just so much more involving. And this is a great manual. I think the way the pedal positioning is, you can really heel and toe really well. And of course, the gear shift falls very easily to hand. And then the shift quality. Oh, the shift quality too. It's just precise, the throw is small, and there are all these things that just make it so much more involving compared to an AMT. And so yeah, if you're going to buy the Swift, I think you must, of course, get the manual. Much like Maruti's, the steering is nothing to write home about, especially when it comes to feel, and especially off-center. And I'm not moving the steering so much because it's so vague off-center, but because we're constantly fighting understeer in the wet thing, so you have to keep opening up the steering so that, you know, the moment you find understeer, you got to open up the steering so the tires catch again, and then you steer again because you start running wide. So, but yes, the steering response is nice, but the feel is not so great. And I think I'm also fine with the ratio because you don't really need to turn the steering a whole lot to get it to point its front end where you want it to go. And you just have to be careful with the throttle, like I said earlier, because of the wet thing. But apart from feel, the steering is actually quite nice. Now, the reason why we have the Swift here, and we would probably have the Swift in every driver's car season if Maruti launched a new one every year, is because of the handling. We had in the first season, we have it now in the third season, because it's just such a playful, wonderful handling car. I mean, as you can tell, I really enjoy this, and because it's also not very fast, and because it's small, even in such torrid rain with its puny tires and it's moving around, the rear coming out and the front moving and sliding and all of that, it's still, you can do so much with it and you can get so involved in all the proceedings. So I really like that about the handling. It's very, I wouldn't say sure-footed in this weather, but it is extremely predictable. Even on these long corners, if you want the rear to step out, or just have to lift off and the rear starts to come out and then you can catch it and correct it. It's wonderful. It's so playful. And the lightness, I think it might have taken some beating because of being a light car. People might say it's not safe. But I think when it comes to handling, you want something that's light. And I think the Swift does a wonderful job on that front. And as the Desire's probably shown, lightness does not equate to, lack of safety. That's a 5-star car. So the Swift 2 will do well. But yeah, handling-wise, I think it's wonderful, and that's the reason to really buy the Swift, because of how involving the handling is, how much fun it is. Now, the only area where I'm not happy with this car, and not just on the track, of course, it becomes a lot more obvious, is braking. But even on the road, it doesn't have the best set of brakes, and of course, it's got thin tires, and so the braking efficiency on the road isn't all that great. But even otherwise, the feel and the pedal and the amount of bite and the power, all that is lacking. So when you enter a corner, you have to start braking early, because even if you get on the brakes hard, it just doesn't have that sort of stopping power that says that, okay, I'll make this corner tough too. And that's something that is lacking. So if you end up buying a Swift, if there's an aftermarket thing that you can get for brakes which does better, I think that's the one you should choose. But yeah, braking, I think, is somewhere where is an aspect where the Swift lacks. But otherwise, it's a wonderful car. If I haven't said it enough through the course of this episode, I like the Swift. If you like driving, you must or you will have a great time in the Swift. Here in such torrid rain. I mean, where visibility is next to nothing. And the road is all wet and it's slipping and sliding, but you know exactly what it's doing. And I like that about it. I like the engine, I like the gearbox, I like the handling. I am okay with the steering, I don't like the brakes, but if you like driving, you have to get yourself a Swift. I know at some point in life, in my car buying journey, I have to get a Swift. And maybe of all the generations that I've driven so far, I'd pick this one.